Well, as you know, guys, I'm a great exponent of organizational culture, and too many people ask me, say, Mr. Selekane, in less than 5 minutes, could you just give us the 5 building blocks of a great organizational culture? Well, I've got a long video that speaks about the 6, and I've got another video that speaks about, how to build it from the bottom, but I'm just going to share with you simply the 5 building blocks of a great organizational culture. So I'm going to say here is the culture that you want to build. You've got to define what that culture is, but there are 5 simple building blocks that will help you build this culture. The first one, of course, is always about leadership. The first one is leadership behavior. How your leaders behave inspires the organization, whether it's going to be a very powerful and congruent organization or a divided organization. If you're the kind of leader that divides people to rule them, your organization will be divided and fragmented. But if you're the kind of the person that always unifies people, you'll create a congruent organization that has the potential to build a powerful culture. So that's the first one. The second one is what I call organizational practices. Now, this one, I'm going to just give you a very simple example based on one of my favorite organizations of all time, Southwestern Airlines. Now, Herb Kelleher, who was the founder of Southwestern Airlines, says 2 very profound things. So that is found in the organizational practices. He says, if our employees are in a happy place through the birth of a child or any achievement will be there with them. Again, if they're in a place of grief, either by the death of their spouse or a close relative, will be there to feel the pain with them. So that's one of their practices. That's one of the building blocks of their organizational culture. So what are the building blocks of your organization? Begin to think about that. The third one is what we call shared beliefs and wait for my favorite one, and values. So what are the things that you believe as an organization, and what are the values that guide the way that you behave internally, which affects your business and your brand externally? Now, if you believe in the brand and the power of the brand, I'll give an example. If you go to Google, if you go to Apple, you go to Zappos, you go to Southwestern Airlines, people believe in the brand. They do everything to make the brand work. Why? Because the values are the foundation through which they behave in showing that shared belief system. Now, the question is, do your people believe in you as a leader? Do they believe in your brand? Do they believe that you can build a very powerful culture? If not, then you're in trouble. So that is the third building block. You've got to create a shared belief environment which is driven and inspired by values. And the fourth one, of course, is how work gets done. Now, this one is it might be simple, but it's a deal breaker. Now, a lot of people cut and paste things. We know that. People cut and paste reports. It's just a big mess. Now, some people, they bring reports which are not very well thought through. The English is crappy. They did not do a spell check. So how does work get done in your organization? Do you always have to pick up the pieces of people that are supposed to really do that work completely? Or does everybody show up very professional and do what is asked of them and even more? So how work gets done really becomes a very, very powerful building block of building a culture. Let me give a simple example. If I'm an outsider and I'm coming to visit your organization and I come at the reception and I tell them I'm going to see so-and-so, they say, please go through this boardroom. And the lady comes and says, would you like coffee or tea? I say coffee. And then she delivers coffee to me with a glass where the coffee is spilling all over the cup. Then it tells me that this is a sloppy organization, because if you can allow such small things to happen, those small things will affect the bigger things. So how work gets done is very important. And the last one, of course, is what's called departmental behavior. How departments behave. Now, in most cases, the sales guy says, we bring the money. So anything and everything we say, you should listen to without questioning. In other businesses, the SCM guy, supply chain management, says, we pay everybody and anybody. If you don't respect us, nothing happens here. Now, in such an organization, you are not going to build a powerful culture, because organizations, departments sabotage each other. So departmental behavior is quite important. And again, that is inspired by the leadership behavior, because if the head of SCM has got a terrible attitude, or the head of sales has got a terrible attitude, it elevates their department and they overlord over everybody else, and eventually it breaks down your organizational culture. So there it is, very simple, 5 building blocks of a great organization. First is leadership behavior, second is organizational practices, third is shared beliefs and values, Fourth is how the work gets done. And lastly is departmental behavior. I hope and trust that if you're a leader, these 5 very simple points will get you to begin to think about how you can begin to build a powerful and congruent culture. This is Selekane, out of here.